Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. One of my Canadian viewers wanted my thoughts on a police corruption scandal that's been going on in southern Ontario, Canada.
Well, the Inspector General of Policing of Ontario has announced a province-wide inspection process aimed at reviewing all police services. It follows last week's stunning arrests of Toronto police officers stemming from a probe into corruption and organized crime. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick has more on this inspection process that was announced earlier today.
Well, it is in response to that bombshell news that was revealed last week by York Police, which led the investigation, which led to the arrest of 7 current Toronto police officers, plus a retired police officer, plus more than a dozen other people. And in the wake of that, Toronto's Police Chief Myron Demke wrote a letter to the Inspector General asking him to launch this investigation. And in that letter, he did suggest that an investigation should go beyond Toronto Police, which is exactly what is going to happen. So Ryan Teschner, the Inspector General, saying that he is going to launch this province-wide probe. And he was talking a lot at this news conference that just wrapped up a little while ago here at Queen's Park about the need for public trust in policing. And when it's undermined, it can undermine public safety. And he said to rebuild public trust, you need to take action. It's not just about words. And so he will be launching this province-wide investigation, which will cover all 43 municipal police services in Ontario, plus the Ontario Provincial Police, plus a police service for a First Nation as well. It's going to cover 5 areas, 5 specific areas, including supervision and span of control. This will relate to how police officers are recruited in the first place, and then ongoing performance of police officers. How is that monitored? How are they supervised? It will include, that's to do with screening and vetting of officers. It'll also cover supervision and span of control, access to police databases and information systems, evidence and property management, and substance use and wellness support. So 5 key areas times 45 police services. It's a lot of work, but the Inspector General saying, again, it's required to rebuild public trust. Here's more of what he said at the news conference.
I think we need to do everything we can to ensure that our systems are as strong as possible to detect these instances in any case that they may manifest. Organized crime is insidious, and organizations are made up of people. And we have to ensure that our organizations are sufficiently strong to prevent and, where necessary, detect and intervene.
And he went on to say the good news here is that some issues were detected and uncovered, which led to the investigation and led to those arrests. Now, he said, given the scope of this province-wide inspection, he's actually going to appoint an external investigator to lead this. It will not be done by him personally. It will be done by someone else that will be brought in. Who that will be, we don't know. He said it will be someone that understands the world of policing. And in part, he made this decision to bring in someone else, partly because of the scope, but they want this to be the top priority and sole focus of this person specifically, rather than it being done within his office on top of all the other work that they're already doing.
And Megan, it certainly seems complicated, but also very overarching, a large investigation. How long might this take?
Really no idea. He wouldn't put any kind of timeline on how long this might take, but he did say his office wants to get this done as expeditiously as possible. Step number 1 will be hiring this external investigator. Then he or she will have to assemble their team to carry out this province-wide investigation, and it'll take them quite some time. He said at the end of the process, this person will prepare a report then Teschner will review it personally, and then he will decide whether there's been any non-compliance with any provincial laws that govern policing. He can then issue directions to individual police services, and he is pledging that all of that will be made public. So the final report will be made public, plus any directions that flow from it. And he also said if issues are uncovered along the way as the investigation is being carried out, they're not going to wait until the end when the report is finished to issue those directions. They might immediately take action and instructions and directions to police services to immediately correct any issues that are identified. He also did note that all of these police officers who have been charged, those cases now have to play out throughout the courts. And he was saying that their work within the Inspector General's office, there will be safeguards in place to ensure that their work doesn't interfere with any of that work and as those cases proceed. But bottom line here, Arthi, a massive probe being launched province-wide into dozens, really, of police services across this province.
CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick at the Ontario Legislature in Toronto. Thank you.
Now, according to Canadian police reports, 7 police officers have been arrested and charged with a series of charges such as taking bribes, protecting illegal cannabis dispensaries for drug traffickers, identity theft, and accessing confidential information to facilitate a murder plot against a manager in an Ontario correctional facility. And while many in Ontario, Canada, are shocked to see that these rogue officers are looking to go out here and participate in these crimes, this is no surprise to this American citizen, because I know that while there are a lot of good officers out there, there are some rogue officers out there who are looking to make a payday for themselves. And what it looks like to me as related to these 7 rogue officers is that they basically betrayed their badge to become part of what Professor Black Truth has called the taxpayer-funded street gang. And these thugs in blue basically betrayed their badge to go out here and look to support these criminals because they basically gave into temptation when they saw all of that drug money. And as they saw all of that drug money, they basically wanted to get a cut for themselves. What happened here is no different than what happened in the movie Training Day that starred Denzel Washington as Alonzo. Now, Alonzo was one of these corrupt police officers, and he was looking to try to train Ethan Hawke's character to be one of these guys who would go along with the program as related to the whole drug game. And basically what happened in Training Day is that eventually what happened was Alonzo got caught up in them streets. Now, when it came down to these rogue Canadian police officers, they didn't get caught up in the streets and get smoked like Alonzo, but what happened to them is that they just wound up getting caught, and they wound up getting caught because people basically possibly turned on them. Because what happens when you go out here and do a lot of dirt is that there are a lot of people who are looking to flip you, and that's possibly what happened here to these rogue police officers. Now, these rogue police officers are no different than the rogue police officers here in New York, and no different than the patter rollers who were the basis for our modern police. Now, during slavery, the patter rollers basically were the slave plantation owners, taxpayer-funded street gang, and their job was to go out here and make sure that these slaves were not only got caught, but went out here and enforced the policies of white supremacy. That was the job of the patter rollers back in the days of slavery, ensuring that people followed the unwritten social rules of the South as related to their old Southern tradition. And a lot of people basically got all of that twisted into officers looking to enforce the law. And good officers do want to enforce the law and live under the rule of law so that everyone can be safe. But when it comes down to these rogues basically want to follow into the traditions of the paddle and the traditions of looking to enforce the policies that are beneficial to the system of white supremacy. And that's where people do get it twisted as related to these rogue officers. These rogue officers, again, they're not about looking to enforce the law. No, they're about creating policies that benefit themselves and twisting policy to benefit themselves, because under the system of white supremacy, the rogue officer can go out here and benefit from the system of goodies, giveaways, and guarantees that the white supremacists will provide as long as they go out here and protect the institution of white supremacy. That's what rogue officers want to do in many cases, and that's why they'll go along with illegal activities like these officers did in looking to try to support drug operations and doing things like identity theft to cover the tracks of the people who are out here doing illegal stuff. And they escalated their behavior to look to protect their people, no different than the paddle rollers did with the slave master. The paddle rollers would not only possibly look to pull a gun to protect the institution of slavery, but they were going to go out here and defend and protect that slave master, to ensure that that slave master would not be have any harm done to them, so that they could continue receiving their paychecks. And again, these guys basically, were dirty from minute one. And sadly, when they go out here, they tarnish the image and reputation of most of the good, solid police officers who want to, enforce the law as they were told by their superiors. They want to go out here and, make sure everything is safe for everyone in the province of Ontario. But the rogue police officer basically is a corrupt individual who basically doesn't want to protect the people, but wants to go out here and protect the institutions that pay them better than the institution of the police department. Because for them, the salary that they get from the police department just isn't enough. And since the salary isn't enough for them to be able to have the lifestyle that they want to have, what they want to do is go out here and go in with these criminals and betray their badge. They want to go out here and betray their badge, and as they betray their badge, they put everyone's safety at risk. Because what they're doing is going out here and looking to compromise with these criminals. And as they compromise with these criminals, they make people less safe with their actions. And that's what was happening here in Ontario. And now what's happening is that the Canadians are now possibly looking to go into a further probe to try to ferret out this corruption. And as they go to look to ferret out this corruption, sadly what's going to happen is you're going to have people who are going to try to cover things up, because the historical base for many folks in law enforcement isn't about protecting and serving the people. No, it's about protecting and serving the economic institutions that benefit them under the system of white supremacy. And as a result, they will go out here and break the law in order to make sure that they are able to continue getting their filthy lucre and their ill-gotten gains from the system of white supremacy, and be able to continue to benefit from that system by, going out here and making sure that the people don't go out here and enforce the law on them the way they do on regular people. And in the case of black people, they go out here and put the harshest penalties on black people, but the whole thing is they always look to protect the white individuals, and possibly that's what's going to happen here, because when it comes down to the thugs in blue, sadly they go out here and have that protection under the system of white supremacy. So no matter what wrong they do, there's no real punishment for them except in the kingdom of God, where they will be held completely accountable for their actions. That's the only place where these individuals will get real accountability and be forced to take responsibility for themselves. That's the only place where these men will possibly get punishment. But as related to the whole system of this whole Canadian law enforcement, again, it runs different than America, but it's still the same white supremacy. And when it comes to white supremacy, they're going to protect people who are white, and because they have the complexion for the protection. And since they have the complexion for the protection, they're going to look out for those people. And when it comes down to these, again, rogue officers, they basically are a small contingent of individuals who are looking to, again, look to milk the system so they can continue to get the benefits from white supremacy of goodies, giveaways, and guarantees for themselves that ensure that they can get to live a higher quality of life in society than most people, because they have this badge, and this badge basically for them is a ticket to basically living a higher life at the expense of the common people. That's the way the rogue police officer sees it. They don't see themselves as a servant looking to go out here and protect the people. They see themselves as opportunists looking to exploit the people and look to exploit the whole system of things. And what happens here is, again, it's when it comes down to this type of corruption, you may get one or two individuals, but the whole thing is that many go unnoticed, because the system of white supremacy will go out here and protect those individuals and make sure that they have cover, because their business is white supremacy, and the business of white supremacy is not about law and order. It's not about justice. It's not about doing anything right. No, the system of white supremacy is about going out here and making sure the unwritten social rules of white supremacy are put in place, and the rogue police officer, like the patter-roller, wants to make sure that the system of white supremacy remains in place so that the white supremacists can maintain their power base and keep the illusion up that there is going to be opportunity and safety for people. But no one is safe in a system of white supremacy, because the white supremacist rules arbitrarily change based on whatever the white supremacist feels. And that's what makes being under rogue officers a very dangerous situation, like many here in America are finding out as related to ICE. They're finding out that under the system of white supremacy, the rules basically change arbitrarily based on the feelings of a white man, and a person's freedom and safety are not guaranteed under the rule of law, but everyone's life is basically under the whim of the white supremacist. That's the scary part about being under a white supremacist. Again, these tyrants basically look to have enforcers that maintain their power base, but they're not looking out for the needs of all of the people. No, not looking out for the needs of all of the people, and that's sadly what these Canadians are finding out, just like many illegals here are finding out, that when it comes down to this system of white supremacy, when you make a deal with this devil is going to burn you, and basically burn you because they don't want there to be any law, but only the whims of the white supremacists, and they consider themselves the ultimate power because they believe that they are a god, and since they believe they are a god, they can do whatever they want. And that's what happens when you, again, allow corruption like this to go in place. It makes people less safe no matter where they go. And that's the devil's bargain that people make with white supremacy, that they don't really understand will eventually burn them at the end of the day. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can drop a donation for $20 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. And if I know something about that subject, I'll make that video for you. And if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can also find them at other online bookstores like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.